Namaste. Today, we're going to actually apply all this stuff we've been learning about quadratics. I know, oh my gosh, how are you going to use it in the real world? And specifically, we're going to talk about geometry, using it for shapes. And here's why. Since area is a square unit, so like if you ever buy a house, they'll talk about square footage. You're often going to see a quadratic equations to solve those problems. First step, you are always, if it has anything to do with geometry, draw a picture. That'll help. Then solve it using the quadratic formula or square root. Today, I'm just going to use the quadratic formula every time because it always works. And show all work. Hopefully you can see that word on your paper. And keep in mind, when we solve something that's applied, when something that's real life, one solution may not make sense. And you'll see exactly what I mean a little bit. So let's start with this first example. We got a rectangle. Hey, we said draw your picture first. I've got a rectangle. La-di-da-di-da. Lovely rectangle, I know. Okay. The length is 4 feet shorter than its width. So let's say, here's my width. This length has to be 4 feet shorter, meaning 4 less than this. So it would be the width minus 4. Awesome. The area is 42 square feet. Well, hopefully you remember the area of a rectangle is length times width. Well, we know area is 42. We have our length labeled, W minus 4, and width is width. We want to find the length and width. Well, step 1, we need to deal with these parentheses, right? And since we have the width is being multiplied, let's distribute that. So W times W is W squared. Then W times negative 4, don't overthink it, it's just negative 4W. And don't forget to bring down that 42 on the left. Well, fabulous. Whenever we're doing anything with quadratics, it's going to really help us to put it in standard form. This is not quite standard, because standard has to equal 0. So ask yourself, what do you add or subtract from 42 to get 0? Well, I'd like to subtract 42. And whatever you do to one side of the equation, you got to do to the other. Wait a second, do I subtract it from here, from here? Well, 42 doesn't have a W, so we can't subtract it from negative 4W. They're not like terms. It doesn't have a W squared, so we can't subtract it from W squared. It's just going to be all by itself. Because remember, only combine like terms. 42 minus 42, that's 0. Everything comes down. W squared minus 4W, and then we subtracted 42. That's standard form. Fabulous. Let's label our A, B, and C. So a little reminder, A is the number in front of W squared. Since we don't have a number, there's really a 1 hiding there. So A is 1. B is negative 4. Some of us like to forget that negative sign. And C is also negative. It's negative 42. Okay, now that we've got A, B, and C, and we're asked to solve, we're finding length and width. When we want to solve, use the quadratic equation. Remember, you've got it on your reference chart. I'm crazy. I have it memorized. So x equals, and you know what I do at this point? First, don't even fill in your numbers. Just put in lots of parentheses. So negative b, parentheses where our b is going to be, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. And all of that is over 2a. So write this out every flippin' time you need to use the quadratic equation. Every time, so that you can fill it in right. Now we fill it in with the numbers. We know this should be a b. b is negative 4. This was b squared, so we put in negative 4. Minus 4a is 1. c is negative 42. It's all over 2 times a. Again, a is 1. All right, now we've got it filled out. We need to simplify some. So what I would do is, let's see, I would get a different color. Put this whole thing into your calculator. And I'm going to see if I can get my calculator to show up. Okay, now you can see my calculator screen. So I'm just going to type in control, then x squared, that gives me my square root. and plug in exactly like I have this, parentheses and all. So negative 4 quantity squared minus 4 parentheses 1 close parentheses another parentheses negative 42 parentheses. And something that's really important, make sure that that line on your square root goes all the way across all your numbers. If it doesn't, you probably pressed right at some point and it's not going to work. Hit enter. Okay, notice I get a decimal. And you know what, I like to be really exact. If you get a decimal, then try it again without the square root so we can get exact a number as possible. So negative 4 quantity squared minus 4a c. Okay, I find out it's 184. That means we can replace everything under the square root with the number 184. So x equals, you know what, let's deal with this. Negative times a negative always gives me a positive. So this is positive 4, plus or minus square root, we said, of 184, all over. Then we have 2 times 1. Well, that's 2. Okay, we're so close to the end. Notice this plus or minus, so that means we need to do 2 problems. We need to separate it now. So I'm going to do one over here and one over here. So one of them is 4 plus the square root of 184 all over 2. The other one is 4 minus the square root of 184 all over 2. So on your calculator, type in 4 plus the square root of 184 and then hit divide by 2. You should get, so this number is roughly equal to, so this is x, it's about 8.78. Okay, that's one possible answer. Then in your calculator put 4 minus the square root of 184. Then click divide by 2. And you should get approximately negative 4.78. Okay, we have 2 answers. That's a problem when we have an application. So ask yourself, when we're talking about the length and width of a rectangle, can it be negative? Oh heck no, that's crazy. So cross that one out. That's ridiculous. So this is our answer. Remember, instead of x we had w. So that means our width is about 8.78. And let's look, our units are feet. So feet. We need to know the length as well. Well, we said length is width minus 4. So that would be 8.78 minus 4, which is 4.78 feet. That's what we were trying to do. All right. That one, believe it or not, in my opinion, was not as hard as the next one. I know, scary. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, we got a triangle. So again, draw your picture. It has a base that is 3 times the height. So we can take the height, and if we multiply it by 3, we'll get the base. The area is 63 centimeters squared. Well, if you don't remember, the area of a triangle is different from a rectangle. It's 1/2 your base times your height. So our area is 63. We need 1/2. Our base is 3h. And our height is h. So let's try to simplify this a little. We'll notice we have a monomial times a monomial, so we just need to add our exponents. They both have an exponent of 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So 3h squared. All right, here's where I pause and I realize, you know what? I got a 1/2 in front of my monomial. It's a monomial. I don't like dealing with fractions. I don't know about you. So to get rid of that fraction, we need to divide this. We're multiplying right here by 1/2. So divide everything by 1/2, both sides. And really, when you divide something by 1/2, that's the same as multiplying by 2. So 63 divided by 1/2 is the same as 63 times 2, which is 126. And on the right, the 1/2s cancel, we just get 3h squared. That is much better. All right, we need standard form. So what do we add or subtract from both sides? I say subtract 126. And notice it doesn't have an h squared, so don't combine it with this. They are not like terms. This gets 0 on the left and just 3h squared minus 126 on the right. Now we can start using our lovely formula. So a is the number in front of h squared. Remember, a, b, and c must be numbers, no letters. A is 3. But b is the number in front of h. We don't have that, so b must be 0. And c must be negative 126, because c is the number that has no variable at all. All right, time for the quadratic formula. So x equals negative, again, set up what I like to call your skeleton. Negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's your skeleton. Now fill it in. We need a b here, which is 0. This is also b, which is 0. A is 3, c is negative 126, and on the bottom we need that a again, which is 3. Okay, let's do some simplifying. Well, negative 0 plus or minus something, we don't need that at all. That's nothing, literally. So whatever. Then I would plug all this into my calculator. Plug it in exactly like we did before. You're going to get a decimal, so then I would just plug in this parentheses, 0 parentheses squared, minus 4 parentheses 3 parentheses parentheses negative 126. And you end up with plus or minus square root of 1,512 all over, well, 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, and make sure you do the correct signs, otherwise you're going to get an error. All right, we need to split this into two problems. So one of them is positive square root of 1,512 over 6. And the other answer is negative square root of 1512 over 6. So here, you just put this in your calculator, do square root of 1,512, hit enter, then divide by 6. That'd be about 6.48. And then again, in your calculator, put negative square root of 1,512, hit enter, then divide by 6. You get x is approximately negative 6.48. Now you got to choose your correct answer. Can we have a negative height? Heck no, that's crazy. That one makes no sense. So that means my height of this lovely triangle is approximately 6.48. We like to have units. We're in centimeters. And we said base is 3 times the height. So base equals 3 times 6.48. So that means my base is approximately 19.44 centimeters. We got our goal. All right, sorry this is so long, but it is really complicated. You've got some practice to start on. Let me know if you have questions. Let me know where you get stuck. I'm here to help.